To show you how insane some of these dividend yields are getting now at this point in time, let me go ahead and pull this up. WBA's dividend yield is now at a shocking 8%. Think about this for a moment. A 4% dividend yield is a monster. This stock could cut its dividend yield in half, and it would still be a 4% yield. Think about that for a moment. You got to be flipping my flapjacks in regards to WBA. If this is not peak delusion, I don't know what is, okay? CVS's dividend yield now is 3.7% on this stock. And guess what? It's right about its 52-week low right now in regards to CVS, if not a multi-year low, right? Look at Target. Are you kidding me? A 3.5% yield on Target now at this point in time? And guess what? This one's right about its 52-week low as well, right? I mean, 3.5% for Target? Like, Target's one of the most comfortable stocks I would possibly feel like holding for the next 5 years in the market. Like, literally, if you told me I had to put all my money in one stock for the next 5 years, Target would be up there. I don't know if it would be the stock, like, let's say I wasn't allowed to trade at all. I mean, if I just had to put all my money in one stock, I might feel pretty dang comfortable in Target, to be honest. And, 3.5% yield now. Coca-Cola's back over a 3% yield. I haven't seen Coca-Cola over a 3% yield in quite some time. But that just goes to show you where this market's at now at this point in time, right? It's sell. Pfizer, the queen of dividend stocks, is now yielding 4.64% on Pfizer. Holy smokus, man. That's no joke. Look at Verizon. Verizon's now yielding 7.5% on Verizon now at this point in time. Oh my gosh. AT&T's now yielding over 7.5% on this stock, right? Jeez, the yields are getting just insane. Xerox has a yield of 6.3%. I mean, these yields are just unnatural, right? Like I said, 3, 4, 5% are like monster dividend yields. And now you got some of these stocks yielding 7, 6, 7, 8%. Man, our dividend stocks beaten down right now. Nordstrom yielding a nearly 5% on good old Nordstrom right now at this point in time. My gosh, okay? So, before we get into talking about recession, Fed moves, how all this can affect these dividend stocks in a substantial way, okay? The moral of the story so far is people are no longer thinking with their brains in regards to dividend stocks. They are just thinking sell. Seems like there's no appetite for buying these stocks, and the selling pressure has been relentless this entire year, okay? That's not smart. Let's just put it that way. Just as growth stocks being sold off the way they were sold off last year was not smart. Whoever thought they were smart for selling Meta at $88, look at you now. Are you proud of yourself? Whoever thought it was smart to sell Nvidia at $110 last year, are you proud of yourself? Okay? Whoever was selling Tesla at 101, are you happy? AMD at 55, are you happy? Okay? This is now going on in dividend stocks. It's brainless, okay? It's absolutely brainless. It's clueless activity, but it is what's going on. And this is where great arbitrage opportunities are opened up in the market, okay? Will we get any stimulus checks or anything like that? Highly unlikely unless you had massive federal government shutdowns. Remember why stimulus checks came the first time. Not a lot of people, I think, even understand why that happened or why that even, why did they all decide to start sending stimulus checks several times, right? The reason was because the federal government decided to put on all these mandates. If the federal government didn't decide to do the shutdowns and everything like that, they could have never got away with sending all the stimulus checks and the PPP loans and oh my gosh, all the stuff I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole, okay? That's the reason you got that. So even if there was some sort of partial shutdowns on the state side, it doesn't mean you're going to get stimulus checks. It would have to be some sort of massive federal related, let's call it shutdown. If you got that, then you're talking about stimulus checks, then you're talking about the PPP loans again, and then you're talking about all types of other forms of stimulus payments and things like that. But that's a pretty low probability because you would need, like I said, the numbers to go insane plus hospitalizations to go up in a massive, massive way. What does it mean for the Fed, right? So in terms of the Fed, it means nothing outside of in case the government actually shut down the economy like they did in 2020. If you had something like that, the Fed's dropping rates to zero again. And it would do it really, really quickly, and it would start quantitative easing instead of quantitative tightening. So once again, not super realistic. I think it's a lower probability, but you never know. You never know what could happen this fall into winter. What if this is a much more severe strain than something we had in 2020 or 2021? then you open up the floodgates. You open up the door to the Fed completely switching policy. So that is something to keep in mind there, because we do know if you're going to shut down the economy, you're going to blast higher unemployment rate. Remember, the unemployment rate went to I think the second highest we've ever seen during 2020, right? I believe we peaked at just a number that was smaller than the Great Depression. I mean, that was incredible, right? Absolutely incredible. So that's something to kind of keep in mind there, right? Now, in regards to inflation's obviously been coming down quite a bit, and that's good news, but the Fed doesn't want to drop rates right now. Okay, so they're not in a position that they want to drop rates. So if they drop rates, that would be, for inflation, we're not to where we need to be yet. We're on the pace of getting to where we need to be, but we're not there. So we might be there this winter. We might be there in early 2024. But yeah, ideally the Fed does not want to have to go from all this work they did to then have to drop rates back down to zero, and the next thing you know, they're doing quantitative easing and things like that. That wouldn't be the best scenario unless, once again, the federal government forced them into that sort of scenario. If they forced them, then things are going to happen like things are going to happen, right? Now, what does this mean for the political side? Because this was a heavily politicized, debated subject. And honestly, it was a huge reason why T-Man lost the last election. A huge reason, in my personal opinion. A massive reason. I believe if we never had that happen, I believe he probably would have honestly stayed in office. But I think that put enough worry out there, and then he got Rona like at a very bad time, man. He got it during this is like the worst time T-Man could have got Rona. He got Rona, and I think that mattered in a substantial way. So in terms of this, I don't know if it matters that much, because on the Dem side, I feel like they're not going to want to talk that much about this, right? Because you're in office right now. You're in the White House. So I feel like if anything, they're going to try to downplay it unless it got so bad that you literally couldn't look away from it. That's the only way they're going to start to actually talk about this in a substantial way. And in terms of the Republican side, they don't really like to talk about this subject very often. It's not like it's their favorite subject to talk about. And a lot of Republicans were heavily against the shutdowns and everything that obviously happened there. So I don't know if Republicans, even if the numbers start to go crazy, I don't know how much they're going to really force the issue that much, where the Dems really push the issue, obviously, in a massive way. So what it means for the election, I think that's a huge wild card, because I think, like I said, I think Republicans are going to, they don't like to talk about this subject very much, and Dems are going to try to downplay whatever happens here, unless it gets so bad that, they have to talk about it. So that's kind of my opinions and perspectives on that. But yeah, man, Rona, who would have known it made a comeback? We'll deal with it with how we got to deal with it, and we'll see where it goes. But don't be surprised if you hear a whole lot more talk about it over this next, let's call it 3 to 6 months. And I mean a lot more talk about it, because it's been really, no one's talked about it for years. Don't be surprised if you hear everybody talking about it over the next 3 to 6 months. We'll see how it all plays out.